If you've ever traveled on the London Underground late at night, you may have felt it. That strange, uneasy silence. The kind that doesn't come from emptiness, but from the feeling that someone might be watching you. Because deep beneath the streets of London, there are places where something doesn't quite belong. Tonight, I'm going to share 3 experiences, stories that people still struggle to explain. The first one begins with a station that no longer appears on any map. It was closed years ago after what was officially called an incident. Though very little detail was ever made public, a train driver named Daniel had passed that station countless times over the years, always seeing nothing more than a dark, lifeless platform. Until once his train approached, he noticed something unusual. The lights were on, faint, flickering, but definitely on. Asuk, he paid little attention at first. But then he saw her, a woman, standing perfectly still near the edge of the platform, dressed in white, her head slightly lowered. Daniel sounded the horn, expecting her to move, but she didn't react, not even slightly. And as the train passed her, she simply vanished. The next day, he reported what he saw, but it was dismissed as fatigue or imagination. However, a few nights later, it happened again. Same station, same woman. Only this time, she slowly lifted her head and looked directly at him. There was something deeply unsettling about her expression. Disturbed, Daniel requested CCTV footage, but when it was reviewed, the platform was completely empty. That's when he began looking into the station's past and discovered that years ago, a woman had died there after stepping in front of a train. Since then, multiple drivers had reported seeing her, always in the same place, always at night. Daniel eventually asked to be moved to another route, but even now, drivers claim that as they pass that forgotten platform, someone is still standing there waiting. One night, at around midnight, a young man named Oliver boarded the last train home. The carriage was almost completely empty. In fact, it felt too empty. He sat down, and that's when he noticed something in the reflection behind him, a figure standing still. He turned around instantly, but there was no one there. His heart began to race. Then the lights flickered once, twice, and the announcement system started to glitch. Suddenly, the train came to a complete stop in the middle of a tunnel. The lights went out entirely, and in that silence he heard footsteps, slow, deliberate, getting closer, until he felt a cold breath right beside his ear. Then the lights came back on. Everything looked normal again. The train continued moving. At the next stop, Oliver stepped off immediately. The following morning, he discovered that years earlier, that same carriage had been involved in a fatal incident, and since then, passengers had reported strange experiences on late-night trains. Next story. Deep beneath the city, long after the last train has passed, maintenance workers often enter tunnels that most people will never see. One night, 3 workers were assigned to repair a section of an older tunnel. The atmosphere felt heavy and unnaturally quiet, only the sound of their tools echoing around them. Suddenly, one of them stopped and asked if the others had heard something.
At first, they hadn't. But moments later, they all heard it. Footsteps echoing behind them. They turned, but there was nothing there. Then, their tools began to fall, one after another, as if something unseen was knocking them over. Their radios crackled to life. First static, then a faint voice telling them to leave. Panic set in. They gathered their equipment quickly, but just before leaving, one of them glanced back and saw a figure standing deep within the tunnel, completely still, watching them. They ran without stopping. Later, records revealed that years ago, several workers had been trapped in that very tunnel and never made it out. Since then, strange occurrences have been reported there again and again. The London Underground is more than just a transport system.